Hi, I'm Keith McGuire. Mark's behind the camera, and today we're gonna paint a little shack down by the creek. I'm gonna begin with the background, and today we're not doing skies. What I wanted to work on today is basically a dappled forest behind our little shed or shack. So I'm going to begin by wetting the paper, and I'm going to use one of my larger brushes here. Hope it's clean. Quick check. Yes, it is. All right. So
who makes that brush?
This is a Black Velvet Silver. It's a 3/4 inch, I believe, cat's tongue is what they call them. There might be there's a couple names for this kind, but basically, as you can see, it's kind of flat, but it comes to a point. They hold a lot of water, and if I'm doing a background or if I've got to wet a lot of area, this is the brush to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a base coat of very pale yellow. What we're going to do is we're going to build our little dappled forest from light to dark. So we're going to start with the very pale yellow, and then we're going to just keep adding our value and our colors, different colors, until we get what I want. Okay, so this particular painting, we're going to do rocks. We're going to do a little creek, a little bit of dead grass because Mark likes that, and then the old shed that's here, or shack. I can't make up my mind what I'm going to call it. Mark will make up my mind when it gets on the YouTube and it needs a name. All right, so this is fairly damp.
Which paper are you using today?
Today I'm using the 140 cold press. And this is Arches, yes. And if you ever see me using a different paper, it's only because it came highly recommended from someone, and I'm very willing to try. So far, I like this best. So, all right. So I'm going to take my paint, and this color, let's see what color this is. This is a lemon yellow, very pale. So it probably needs quite a bit of, quite a bit of color to make it even stay. Watercolors do dry about 40% lighter than when you put them on. So, like I said, what I'm trying to do is just get some very pretty pale, because this will represent a little bit of the background, a little bit of the leaves in the background that the light is kind of hitting on. So you'll understand as I go on, hopefully. All right. So
and those are your Schminky pan paints?
They are.
Links are in the description below where you can purchase all the materials that Keith's using today, as well as most of our videos. So if you're ever curious on what he used and what brand it is and where it can be found, it's all in the description.
All right, so I'm hitting it a little heavier now in certain areas. I don't want it all like one even value. That's not what I'm looking for here. So put some here, maybe a little more over here. Like I said, this will represent more light coming through the trees than actual color of the trees, and it will become more understandable as I go on. So at this point, I'm going to let this completely dry. and then I'll wet it and I'll start adding another color. All right, so I have let the yellow dry completely, and I'm about to begin adding my greens now. My greens, So I'm going to use, this is called May Green in Schminky palette. If you don't have Schminky, and you're kind of wondering what color that might be,
go buy some.
Yeah, no, I would recommend, yeah, buy the Schminky. I recommend Permanent Green Light. It's very similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's very similar, and it mixes well with other greens. I find greens to be a little dull on occasion. I've found that if you add a little May Green to something, it does kind of cheer it up a mite. Let's put it that way.
So, just because I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
That looks awfully neon right now.
It is. It does look very neon. Okay. And like I said, what I like to do is mix it with other paints. By itself, it's just a little too, you know, that kind of thing. So, I'm going to now add, and I'm not going to mix it in very hard. So, I'm just going to kind of lightly blend them together so they're not quite like a new color, but rather I'm grabbing up both colors at the same time. So, no, I'm not. First, I'm going to lightly wet a couple areas here. Now, I'm not completely soaking this down like I did with the yellow. I'm just giving it enough moisture where I'm going to start planting tree branches, basically. You'll understand as I go. I hope. I believe you will. So, what I'm doing right now, you're wondering, why is he leaving those little yellow things? They will eventually be light on leaves in the foreground here. Foreground of the talk much?
English is your first language?
Yeah, of the forest. Foreground of the forest. Not the foreground of the painting. How's that? Anyway, so I want to leave some of the yellow. I do not want to kill it all because I'm going to be using that as kind of light source, you know, the sun kind of shining on these little leaves here and there. So if you wonder what I'm doing when I look off camera, is I've kind of created the technique before, and I want to make sure that I'm kind of following my own game plan, so to speak. All right, so as you can see, I've left these little bits of yellow here, and I'm kind of going around them with the green. Ooh, there's that bright shiny color. All right, now I'm using just a little bit of the May Green by itself, just to kind of break up the color so it isn't all one color. I'm sorry, the other green I was using is a permanent olive.
You switch brushes on me too. What are you using brush-wise now?
Well, right now I'm using my, it's a ultra round, 70-20 ultra round. This is a Lowell Cornell. Basically, this brush has a good point on it, and I just kind of like pointy brushes. That's something
Is that the number 4?
This is probably the 8, and I am correct. Yay! First time this week. All right. So again, notice I leave bits of the yellow and kind of go around those. In the meantime, as I move farther back into my scenery and kind of behind my old building here, I'm not going to be worrying about quite so much about detail. But what I don't want to do is I really don't want to get too dark yet. Eventually there will be some dark areas, But as you can see, I can add a little value here, a little more color. Because I want to get the feeling that the light is kind of hitting this way, okay? And I just don't want every tree to be dark. I want them to all have a little bit of light on them. But it's not, you know, eventually we will get to a nice valued area, but not quite yet. All right. So, same back here. I'm assuming I'm still on the...
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, good.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's what I figured, but sometimes I don't look up and...
I'm going to install little zappers so
yeah.
when you get too close to one end, it forces you back.
I've trained you well, Monkey Keith. Alright, so I will have more trees. Like I said, this background, I kind of wanted it to feel like a very wooded scene. I think I'm going to have some branches kind of hanging over this way. So notice how I leave some of the lighter background in. Just, you know, they don't have to look like leaves. They just have to kind of, you know, have light areas. And obviously this branch is kind of hanging over that way, or going in that direction. So... okay. Yeah. I like that. All right. All right. So, I think I'm going to come back to the top a little bit and going to add a little more value up here. And I think if you notice the neon green, it's not that bad when you mix it with it. Olive, I think, is very dull. You know, the olive green, I think it's kind of a dull color. Add this neon green, this May green, or like I said, the permanent green light, and it just kind of, it brightens things up. It brightens sap green. It's one of my colors that when I found it, I went, thank you. I finally found something that I can use to make greens a little less boring, dead. For years I worked with Hooker's green. Makes Hooker's green better. Makes everything better. I used to get so frustrated.
We don't condone green hookers.
Yes, wait. Let me rephrase that again. I'm having a bad week for conversational English, I think.
Just poor naming, I think.
Yeah. All right. So, very good. All right. So, as you can see, it's like I worked kind of wet, but, you know, it's not that. And kind of loose. But I do need a little bit of detail here and there just to kind of keep it interesting. So I'm going to fill in a little bit of color up in here. Notice how I kind of go in I like to keep my direction flowing, you know, one way or the other. Kind of helps define which branches or which trees I'm working on. All right. And I think up here I'll just kind of soften. And at this point, I think I'm going to take a break, let this dry up real quick. And then we'll try to get a little more value going here and there. Kind of break our trees up now and make them look not quite so bright. We'll be adding a little more value to this. All right. And let's stop there, and I'm going to take a break. I am ready to begin with the little darker values now to kind of separate the trees, make them look, you know, like it isn't just one big green blob back there. So I'm going to begin with, I'm going to first probably put a little darks along the bottom of the cabin. So I'm going to grab a little more of the olive green. And I'm not wetting it, but I will be kind of pushing it around once I get some color down. So I do got a little fence post here. I can't resist putting fence posts everywhere. So what I'm going to be doing is, see how I'm kind of shadowing up and around the base of this building. And I'm going to come in. Now I'm going to kind of just wet a little bit of this, get it kind of so it isn't so dry. I don't know if I'm making sense or not. Arr, watch. So now I'm coming in, and I'm going to break up these branches a little bit so it looks like there are more individual branches here and there. So some of the yellow is going to disappear. So this will kind of look like this is a large chunk of tree coming down right here. A limb or two. I'm just going to kind of blend this away. All right, looks like I got to get a lot more paint on my tray.
Could get you a smaller tray, then it looks like more paint.
Yeah, I don't think I don't want a smaller tray. It's about as small as I go. All right, so, oh no, it's another fence post.
Well, at least you put in 2 this time.
Oh, 3. I just did a quick count.
Are they connected to each other?
No, they're just, you know.
Tune in next week when we complete an entire fence.
No, I'm gonna. I promise I'll put some barbed wire or something in there. All right. So as you can see, how I kind of went around some of the yellow, and I'm actually gonna take a little bit of water, and I'm just going to soften this up a little bit so I don't get too much hard lines. All right. Now I'm going to come up. I'm going to add a little more value back here. Like I said, I don't want it to look like all the trees are right in front of us here, but I want this one to look like this is like a large chunk of tree kind of hanging right there. So I'm going to adding just a little more value here and there towards the back of the building. getting stuck. All right. Like I said, leave little light areas. They will look like leaves that are getting hit by a little bit of light.
Can we just go back over it with white paint?
No. No. Not a big fan of white. And no. What represents, the trees in this picture are basically the lightest value you have. So, I mean, right now it's just a very light yellow, very pale yellow. But, yeah, white is an opaque color. For it to cover, it actually covers, the color underneath and doesn't let the light shine through. And what it tends to do is flatten your watercolor. And so I really can't think of a whole lot of reasons you would ever I really hate white. Use white in your paper, on your paper. To me, it's almost like, I'm not sure what to call it. It's almost like whiteout. It just flattens, dulls, kills. And some people say, well, it's a way of covering up mistakes. No, it ain't. I think it's just another way to point out that you've made a mistake. So, that being said, if you have a good paper, if you use good paper, like Arches, a lot of times you can scrub. Ooh, that might be a good lesson. You can scrub using a Mr. Clean scratchy pad. Those white, what are they called? The
magic erasers.
Magic erasers. They're great for cleaning walls and removing color on a watercolor. Now some colors stain, so not everything's ever can't guarantee it'll all come up. But I have been amazed, absolutely amazed at after 40 years of living with my mistakes to be able to actually erase a watercolor. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. All right, so I don't know if you notice what I've been doing, but I've been slowly adding my value and leaving light areas that represent some of the light areas on the trees. So at this point, I'm actually kind of having fun here. Well, I'm glad somebody is. All right. So as you can see, this kind of represents branches coming down, sun kind of hitting the branches. And I think at this point, I'm actually going to take a little bit of that yellow again, the original yellow, the lemon yellow, very lightly. And I'm actually going to maybe hit a couple of these areas just to brighten them up a little bit more. Now you want to kind of make sure it ain't too wet or anything, or it'll just all blend together. But I think it's kind of dry enough, because I wanted that kind of sunny, dappled look, not such an intense, not a Texas white hot look, where things look white actually, so dead. So that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm just going to push a little more of that yellow back in. And Mr. Hicks, how was our time? How am I doing?
You're good.
Okay. So sweet. All right. So there will be more value going in. It's a step-by-step process, but this is kind of fun. I kind of like it where it's at right now. I don't want it to get too dark. But we do need, you know, you got to get that light to dark value to make things more three-dimensional, make it come alive. So I think at this point, again, I have to let it dry. So I'm going to take a break right here. And when we come back, I'm going to nail the last, not all of it, but the last of the deeper values in this. And then there's other little sticks and twigs and things we're going to put in it. So let's take a break right here. All right, I am about to add, it kind of dried and over the break. And I'm going to add just a little more yellow up at the top. But mainly, mainly this is going to be me. Did I say a little yellow? All right. I just want to brighten up a little bit more. Like I said, this stuff dries fairly light, so that's why I'm not worried. I'm not worried. I know what I'm doing. I'm an artist. All right, cool. There, I kind of, yeah, and I just want to kind of brighten up the top because I really want the darks to actually show up pretty good. So at this point, I am going to grab me some, if I can find the right one, I believe. Oh yeah, this is Cerulean Blue. And it's a pretty color. When it's dark and concentrated, it makes great skies. But I'm going to mix it with the May Green and get a very intense dark value out of this one. And not only is it dark, but it's kind of pretty too. And it's pretty. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hit this with a little bit of value. You can see I didn't wet the paper. But I'm going to kind of push it around once I get it going. So let's come down in here a little bit. So like I said, I'm trying to create a forest. Like I said, a lot of times people do these backgrounds and they end up being muddy and dark and just forlorn. And I hate that. You know, when I'm in the woods, when I'm floating around looking for things in the woods, I find it interesting how the light hits the trees, the branches, and that it's, you know, it's light in spots, it's dark in spots, and I am fascinated by the light and the dark values. Okay, so if everybody tries to gray everything down, and it just gets to a point where, I hate to say it, you know, their woods look kind of grim. I guess it depends. If you're painting Hansel and Gretel, that'd be a whole different story. Yeah. Well, the dark version, you know what I mean? So as you can see, I'm starting to now bring in my darks into the foreground trees because they're not all light. They have to have some dark to make it more three-dimensional. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm almost started an old habit. Painting with my tongue. I finally, after 30 years, they finally got me to stop doing that.
Are they squirting you like a cat?
Oh, God. I remember I looked up in high school. I was drawing with about 5 other guys at a table, you know, it was art class, and I'm working. Finally, I look up, and they're all, I'm like, all right, thanks. So, anyway, as you can see, I'm going to let that kind of, this was still a little bit moist up there, so I'm going to just kind of leave that alone. But I like what's going on. I like these. I like how the blue, the cerulean blue, and the green kind of separate on the paper. And I get some different values and colors out of it. It's pretty neat, actually. All right. Let me just gonna little dab will do you here and there. All right. So okay. Now, on this side, I'm going to darken up under this little guy right here. Again, I'm going to probably go around the house. And you can see I'm almost kind of outlining some of these branches. Okay. But what I'll be doing now is kind of blending them in, so to speak. Okay. Just a little bit of water just to kind of soften. Like I said, I don't want to lose all my light. But it can't be all light either. Got to get some shadows in there. So I'm gonna probably come under here. Like I said, whatever tree I'm working on, I kind of go in the general direction. I don't want to be changing everything all over the place. Just gets confusing then. But under here, now, I want some real value. So that's what I'm using is kind of the olive green, mostly the olive green. So, but I can also add a little bit of the cerulean blue to that. And I mean, I think it's fun to experiment with other greens and other colors. I would like to think you're going to try this at home. And maybe, you know, there are other blues. Cobalt blue is very intense, very beautiful blue too. Schminke's cerulean is very pretty. I don't think it's a true. God, I hope Schminke's ain't gonna yell at me, but I don't think it's a true cerulean. I find ceruleans tend to be grainy, and the Schminke's isn't. So that's why I'm thinking it's maybe not quite true cerulean. So if you find cerulean you don't like it, you might switch over to, oh, what is the color I'm looking for? Hang on, I will find it. Not cerulean. Okay, I don't have it in this kit. No, phthalo blue. Yes, phthalo blue can be a very intense blue that you can mix with the May green also. It's absolutely wonderful. All right. So at this point, I kind of like what I got here. Yeah. I'm just gonna So I'll put a lot of these spots in and get some of the, some of these leaf-like structures going. But then I might, dull them down here, here and there later on. Okay. Okay. So, all right. So at this point, I might have to. I think I'm going to let it dry. We will stop here. Okay. I was going to put some sticks and twigs in, but I'm afraid it's a little too wet. So let's pause. We can pick that up as part of the detailing towards the end of the painting. So
we're done for part 1 today.
We are.
Tune in tomorrow for part 2. Again, in the description is a link to pick up and purchase any of the materials Keith used today, or use them as a master list to go pick them up at your local art center. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or want to show off your work, put it in the comments below. What do you think we're going to work on tomorrow? What's the game plan?
Well, I think the game plan for tomorrow will be the actual shed itself, the foreground vegetation, and I'm pretty sure we can get the rocks in too. We'll see. But I think that's going to be it.
All right. Thanks for watching. Give this video a like. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the parts. And check out some of the older videos because we've got lots of those too.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.